Welcome to the Rhythm and Remedy podcast.
The time has come to share your thoughts, relive your moments, open up your hearts with one and only Rhythm and Remedy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Rhythm and Remedy podcast, where music meets medicine. Speaking of music, today we have a very special guest joining us. But before we get to that, just want to say on behalf of Owen Christensen, Dr. Jugpreet Bajwa, and Clement Chow and myself, we just really want to thank all of you guys for all of the support you guys have continued to show through the podcast series. Just starting off and making the amount of memories we have through all of this. It's never going to be forgotten. And I think to just put it out into the universe, never thought that, it would come to fruition the way it has. And it's really gone beyond what we've expected. And so we're really grateful for all of the love and support that you've all shown us. And without further ado, the guest we have today is a drummer maestro, someone who's been, doing this since he was a child. He'd be drumming in his sleep probably too. Someone who has been drummer for many Punjabi artists, including Jazzy B, Sukha, and now a full-time drummer with the PropheC. And his dad has been such a great musical mind, going back to his days in his own Punjabi band back in the UK, but then also, putting on some events here that put a lot of emphasis on local talent. And I'm so glad and so honored to be a part of those events. And I think that's the beauty of artistry, is if you're able to learn a lot of different perspectives and, really grow yourself as an artist. I think it really helps in terms of, gaining a lot more, inner peace with yourself, but also just musically how to pick up on things. And, so that's why, especially for me, it's really stimulating to have somebody on like this, who has had such an illustrious career so far. But I just feel like this is just the beginning for him and has really, put a lot of great effect into, if you kind of look back at the history, I think he's going to be really remembered as one of the people who has started, the sort of drumming patterns that we see now in Punjabi music. So without further ado, I'm so glad to introduce and very grateful to have on this podcast, Mr. Karan Mattu. Thanks so much for coming on, brother.
Wow, thank you for having me. Wow, what an intro that was! Like, I don't think anyone has ever talked that nice about me in a very long time. But I appreciate.
Well deserved, you come from such a great family, man. Like I have so much respect for Jazz Uncle and the amount of things that he's also done for the community,
of course.
But also the son he's raised. I know we're about the same age, and I'm talking as if I'm 50.
No. But that's what's funny, actually. Yeah. And I appreciate that. It's funny because we've both kind of like been in this industry when we were kids, and we've seen each other kind of come to the point where we are now. And it's awesome to see the journey that not just even that you've been on and to see both of our progressions, but it's been really exciting to see. And thank you for this opportunity, man. I'm excited to chat some more. It'd be good.
Yeah, no, of course. And thank you as well. I mean, I'm just trying to kind of remember like when we met.
Yeah.
For the first time, like it's been such a blur with so many things going on. Because
100%.
I think I'm sure I probably met you through your dad.
Yeah, it was probably because I did a lot of stuff with my dad when I was younger. So even like when I was like in early high school, even like Yeah, early high school, I joined one of his bands, and then we were going and doing shows, and I was like maybe 13, 14. So I want to say we probably met when I was like 14, 15. It's just like roughly in between 13 maybe to 15 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of where I can't remember where. It was probably at some one of the halls here locally, and
that sounds like the stereotypical place to meet.
File Business Center. That's probably where where you spend like 80% of the summer, and it was probably one of those halls, and we were probably both playing at the same event, and
probably.
And that was it. So yeah, but you're right. That seems like a long time ago from where it was now.
It's. I mean, just kind of reflecting on our journeys, and I was thinking about this earlier today. But obviously, we've both been very lucky to be on the journeys that we've been on through our music. But it's crazy that you and I have not even really worked or collaborated or even hung out as much, even during these years. And I was like, man, that's got to change. Like, I was just hearing this video that you sent me the other day of you drumming, and I was just like, man, where have you been all my life, bro?
It's it's so funny and funny and like almost like why haven't we collabed at the same time? But like it's so crazy because I think also being here and like not even like in British Columbia, but like Surrey alone has so much talent. And it's crazy the amount of, especially in the Punjabi music industry, the amount of people and the amount of artists that have come, just out of Surrey, and everybody's kind of on their journeys. And I think also like when you're younger, you kind of are, I guess, I wouldn't say you're less about collaboration, but you're more so like, okay, like I got to work on my craft. I got to work on my craft. I got to work on my craft. And then once you finally get to the point where you are, at the level that you see fit, you're kind of like, okay, now I guess maybe I felt like this, but now I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to also work with other people now because I'm at the level where I feel like I can also bring value to them. Sometimes when you're younger, you're just like, I don't really know if like, does this really, I guess does this really work? Does this work? We're both trying to figure it out kind of thing. But I never thought about it like that. But thinking about it right now, maybe why we didn't collab or this, that, and the others, because I think everybody sometimes is just focused on like the journey of like, I want to get good at my craft and I want to keep going. And then once you get there, you're like, oh, I think we could do it.
100%. And the craziest part of it too is I always say to people, like, they'll be like, oh, why haven't you worked with this guy? Or why hasn't this happened yet? And I'm just like, when the stars are meant to align, they will.
I love that.
Right? Like I think that collaborations are so beautiful that they cannot be forced. And they cannot be this sort of manufactured sort of thing of, hey, let's collab.
Of course.
It's more like, hey, what the connection is like, what the vibe is on a certain day, right?
That's right.
And the thing is, like, when you collaborate on a project, you're not always just like, coming up with this one singular idea. It's a bunch of ideas.
Of course.
And then it's a long process. I think you're right. I think I was at that point too, where I was kind of like, I want to, keep working on my craft, but also kind of establishing myself too.
Totally.
I think what collaboration has really started to teach me though, is there are so many things that when you start working with another musical mind, especially, it's one of those things that you really appreciate so much more because you're like, man, I didn't really know that music could be done this way.
Yeah.
Because you're working with multiple other minds
Totally.
that have their own ideas.
Of course.
And when they're fused together with your own ideas, some magic can really come out of it. I really actually experienced that when I went to Victoria this summer too. I was like, in this space where I was with my friend, Sasha, who I'll have on as well. But him and I were just like jamming in the studio and we came up with these like crazy ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And when we fused it together, it was like, wow, like I didn't realize like, we could make something like this, right?
Of course.
So I think collaborations, they really help you expand your horizon.
Totally.
Musically, which I think is is amazing. And I think that's the part of harmony, and that's what music is all about, right? Is not just, obviously community outreach is a big thing, but also how, you and other musicians can come together and, and I think collaboration is also setting our egos aside at that point.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And doing something that's, and understanding that your sound might be a little bit different, because naturally it's going to be when you collab with somebody, right? Like it's,
Totally.
It could evolve. It could really evolve your sound and what you think and how you feel about where you want to go with your music too. So
100%. I mean, I think some of the best things that I've came up with, so just even by myself, have been because I've collabed with other people.
Yes.
Because what's cool about music is that there's no one way to do it correctly. There's infinite amounts of way to do it. Everybody has different takes, different styles, different ways they think about it. And when you collab with someone, yes, you're collabing, but you're also learning how they operate in relation to yourself. And I think that's
sometimes
really cool.
Subconsciously.
That's correct. Yeah. You don't even realize until after. And that can sometimes influence the way that you do things. You say, oh, I really like what they did. I'm going to try doing that in, whatever I do next. And vice versa. They may be thinking the exact same thing. And I think that's really cool, because it's one of those things where, it's so much more than... I think it goes beyond collaboration, because it's almost like a learning or like teaching session subconsciously without you even knowing. Like, you're also there learning about how this person operates, and they're learning how you operate, and you can take that and go do whatever you want with it. And it's one of those places where it's okay to do. No one's ever going to say, don't do this or don't do that. Like, music is one of those things that you can literally go on YouTube and steal a bunch of ideas, as long as you're not copying, but taking the idea of it and implementing it into your own thing. So it's cool. I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. And I feel like there's a difference between, like, obviously plagiarizing, like you said, and sharing.
Yes.
And borrowing ideas and making it your own.
Of course.
Right? One of the things that Preetham Da was telling me, I was on Saregamapa, one of the judges of the show, and obviously a great music director in his own right, was that we often focus on too much of how to make something sound good, where it's let the familiar sound new and the new sound familiar.
Wow.
And I thought that was really cool, because I think that's really helped influence my compositions and the stuff that I've been able to do. So yeah, but honestly, man, I really wanted to get into your journey,
sure,
as well. And so kind of going back to the beginning. So you were born in the UK.
That's right.
And then you and your family moved out here. So was music sort of an innate part of you right from the beginning? Or was that something that you were guided towards by your family? Like, how did that all come together?
Yeah, good question. 100%, it was definitely a lot of my father's influence, and rightfully so. So my dad was the singer of the Punjabi band Anamika back in the UK.
Yeah.
And so
great band.
Yeah, and they were really cool for what they did, because a lot of their music wasn't like, they didn't have actually a dole player. They had a drummer, guitar player, saxophone, singer, like a percussion, like guitar. Like it wasn't the Punjabi kind of sound, typical kind of Punjabi kind of sound.
Yeah, there's like a mix of UK elements.
That's right. Yeah. And so it 100% started from my dad, because, I thought it started when my dad gave me a drum set at 12 years old and said, play. Yeah. And what I thought it was he bought me a drum kit and he said, here, play that. He put on some like Bollywood tracks. He's like, you hear that beat? Try and play it on the drums. And that was my first lesson of playing drums. He's like, it wasn't like, hey, this is how you hold sticks. This is how you do this. He's like, do you hear that? And I was like, yeah. He's like, try and play that on the drums. And I was like, okay. And I did it. And I successfully played it. Obviously not to the degree of, probably pretty simple at the time, but I didn't think about, oh wow, I just played that with no instruction until recently. Well, I'd say like 2 years ago, I went to England, and one of my cousins was showing me a video of when they came to visit me when I was like 2-3 years old. Oh, and I was watching it, and something interesting happened. Is there was I'd gotten all these pots and pans and boxes and laid them on the floor, and there was music playing in the back, and you sort of saw me banging on the pots and pans with my hands, but I was in sync with the music. Like I was playing it as I was on beat and this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, like it was that moment when I was like, I didn't realize, but like, I guess just because music, like obviously mom and dad had music around all the time. Dad was singing, and they saw obviously what I was doing is that they sort of pushed me into that direction because of what they saw when I was younger. Yeah. And that's what sort of led to where I am now. And I never realized that until I saw those videos, and I was like, I had almost like a breakthrough moment. I was like, wow, this is crazy, because everyone's always asked me, they're like, did you take lessons? And I was like, no, I've never taken lessons.
So before the age of, wow, that's a really cool story. Like,
yeah.
I think we have like really similar upbringings in that sense, because like we would listen to a lot of music. My family, they would have like karaoke parties until like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like there was always music around us.
Totally.
And I think similarly probably for you too, right? So like before the age of 12, like did it ever occur to you to go into music? Like, yeah, I know like as children, like we have these, different dreams that, obviously evolve or change when we get older, but like, how was your mindset before that point?
Yeah, it's interesting. So like, I think the first inkling of it is when, in grade 7, when you start doing band and you get to pick your instrument in high school, elementary school. And obviously then it was like, you can play percussion. And so I came home and I said to my dad, I was like, oh, like we can start band. Like, what do you think I should play? Like I could play clarinet, saxophone, bass guitar, whatever, and drums. And he's like, and then obviously he had this information and seen this video and been there when I was banging on pots and pans and saw that I had decent rhythm when I was a kid. So he said, you're definitely going to play drums. And I said, I was like, I didn't think of it. I was like, okay, cool. Like if that's what you think I should do, like that's what you should do. So and that was just like a single snare drum, like a marching snare drum. And then when he bought me the drum kit, I'd obviously liked playing that. So then playing the snare drum. So I started graduating to that. And at that point, I just thought, this is a cool thing to do. Like, this is fun. I feel like I'm decently good at it. I didn't really think of it as a career until maybe like midway through high school, because that's when I joined like a full jazz ensemble and I was playing with like a group, and I noticed that I was pretty good at it. That's when it sort of happened. But when I was like 12, 13, I just thought, this is fun to do, and it seemed to be
amazing.
Good. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so like, were you starting to learn from different drum instructors, or like, were you starting to learn from uncle? Like how did that all come together?
Good question. So initially in the beginning, like I said, it was my dad putting on like Bollywood songs and being like, you hear that beat? Yeah. Like, yeah. He's like, try and mimic that. And I said, okay. And so I sort of just sat there and started trying to figure it out. And I after a while, I did get it. From that point, and that was basically like my introduction lessons, I guess, into drumming. From there, what actually really helped me develop is my high school band directors. And because I was now tasked, because I went from playing just drums by myself to playing drums from grade 8 to grade 12 in a jazz band. And I was in charge of like being like the second leader. Like the drummer is always kind of like the driving force in the band.
And there's a lot of coordinated rhythms.
A lot of coordinated rhythms. You got to coordinate stuff with like the horn section and all that kind of stuff. And it was really on my band teachers that really sort of gave me any kind of direction of, okay, like when this comes up, you should play this kind of fill. Granted, they weren't saying you should play this sticking pattern or you need to do this technique. They were just giving me instructions like, okay, you kind of want to play something like this, da 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 da. And I was like, oh, okay, like, okay, I'm gonna try and go. Like, it wasn't like play this hand, then this hand, and this foot. It was just play something that sounds like this. And that was the only kind of direction, and I would say lessons that I kind of had. And then from there, it just expanded to me sort of doing my own research, like listening to a lot of bands that had really good drummers and trying to copy it, going on YouTube and watching like how to play a Latin groove, and you sit there and be like, oh, okay, cool. And then you sort of try and mimic it, how to play, a reggaeton groove or or a hip hop groove. And then from there, learning about notation and stuff like that. Notation actually is a big one. Notation is like in terms of like learning like quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and all that kind of stuff. That I learned a lot through high school because we had to read like actual music.
Yeah.
So you had to sit there and be like, okay, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and ba. And so like that I would say is like a sort of combination of like lessons, but not traditional, and not in the traditional kind of way of sitting down with a drum teacher and
just learning like in that sense.
Yeah. So it was more like I would say they were lessons, but it was a little bit unorthodox. It wasn't the traditional, you get a teacher, they sit in front of you and teach you everything kind of way.
I'm sure it probably, that's really interesting you say that, because I think online learning has really become such a staple even for a lot of us musicians.
Yep.
Even when it comes to like recording software or just learning like different drum patterns.
ChatGPT is great.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's good because I think it bridges the gap in terms of affordability, right? Because not everyone can afford to even go to like one-on-one instruction with a musician or anything like that. And so I think it's really good that there are people who are taking out the time, and I guess one of the things that I'm really curious about then is it must have been so innate within you in terms of the drum patterns and everything, like when you were able to really mimic a lot of these things and like play in jazz ensembles and, the way that they would instruct you to play those things. Mm-hmm. Like, do you feel like, just kind of reflecting back on it, like, do you feel like a lot of that was maybe made easier to do because of already the music background and so much music that you've already come from and just being around that music constantly and knowing what sounds good?
100%, without a doubt, I wouldn't have been able to do like any of that to the degree if I didn't have, sort of the upbringing and influence from a lot of my family of, being around music to get to that level. Yeah. I think I'm trying to think of how interesting it or how well I would have done if I hadn't had that kind of background. Yeah. Because it definitely, at the time I didn't know. But now, obviously, thinking back on it, subconsciously, what I was probably doing is when they were coming up with those things, and I was probably referencing things that had happened throughout my childhood and growing up, and hearing dad. I'd watch my dad perform a bunch of times when I was a kid. Yeah. At festivals, like we went to like Dallas and stuff like that when he was performing, and like I was young, but I was watching it and I saw it. And I guess you kind of recall that when it comes time for you to do it. You don't know what you're recalling from, but you just know it's there and it's something that's within you. Yeah. And I feel really blessed, honestly, because I think it's a handful of people or a small group of people who get to experience something like that.
Sure. And absolutely.
And it does feel special. And by the way, that doesn't make me better than anyone who hasn't experienced that.
No, of course.
I just think it's something really special to think like, wow, like, it's sort of happened in a kind of a natural way. Yeah. And it's really,
and that's your experience.
Cool. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your experience. And so, there's nothing to apologize about. So that's really, that's really beautiful. The fact that was ingrained, in so many different ways from such a young age. Totally. Like watching your dad perform too, like what was that like for you? Like just kind of even thinking about it now, just seeing the way he performed, like was there sort of this feeling back then, like, hey, like I want to get up on stage too at that point? Or, was it?
It's funny. There's a few photos of me on stage with him at a festival of me playing like this miniature dole. I'll show like it's pretty funny. Like it's this small little dole and I'm playing and I'm on stage with him while he's performing, and seeing him perform when I was younger was always cool because, you know, you view your parents as heroes, and especially when you see them on a stage like that, especially seeing my dad perform, it was really cool. And I think there was probably a part of me that was like, oh, I want to do that, but I don't think I was consciously there yet to realize that's what I wanted. But obviously through seeing him do it, it was I guess a part of it did sort of bring that element, because my dad's always been an entertainer. Like he's like, even when we do at family gatherings, he's been the entertainer.
Absolutely.
And this, that, and the other. And I think a part of me always sort of wanted to encompass music in that sort of way. Maybe not as like a front man like he is in terms of like the singer, but something to do with music and performing for people.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, did you get to meet a lot of different, you know, musicians growing up too? Because your dad was performing a lot. Like, were you exposed to that at that point?
Yeah. It's it's quite funny. It's my dad stems from quite a musical family as well. So for example, in the band Anamika, my uncle was the bass player, my cousin was the keyboard player, and the old percussionist from their band Anamika later went on to become the drummer for DCS, the other Bhangra band.
Oh, no way.
And so there's this like big connection.
Yeah, those guys were sick.
Right? Yeah. And there's a sick connect. I've played with them too, and they all know me. And when they found out who I was, they're like, "Oh my God, you're Jazz's son!" They freaked out, like it was crazy. And so I've always been around my family as musicians, and a lot of them are either like DJs or keyboard players or this, that, and the other. A lot of them are producers for, you know, some big songs that have come out. Like I've never said this publicly, and I'm sure he won't mind, but I won't name him in case he doesn't want to get named. But one of my cousins, he produced the song Kala Chashma.
No way.
That's his song. Yeah. Like obviously it's a remake, but like the new version that everyone likes.
And it's not out publicly? Like,
no, that's like the one that you hear, the song. That's
no, sorry. His name isn't public?
His name, I think his name is on it. I just don't know if he likes the spotlight or not. So I won't say it.
That's fair. That's fair.
But it's like he's like my direct. I talk to him all the time, like my direct cousin. Like he's responsible for that song and other songs as well. But it's just the point that I'm trying is, and that's not. I'm not trying to like even flex in a way. The point is, I'm just saying like it's been around so much in my family. And so that's also like where a lot of it stems from, is I've grown up seeing my family have these sing-along sessions, and they, you know, when we all the weddings, everybody gets out instruments and they're like, we're doing live, like, you know, karaoke nights and everyone's singing and dancing. And so because I've been around that so much, I think that was definitely a part of where I got to where I got to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that remake, I mean, it really took Kala Chashma to another level.
100%.
You know, it's just like the whole thing was really amazing. And I think I might know who you're talking about.
I don't think he'll care, but it's just I don't know, but I'll tell you after for sure.
Yeah, 100%. No, absolutely. But no, that's and I think that really adds to your musical experience. So kind of going through high school, when did gigs start going for you?
Yeah, that's a cool story. So I started performing and doing gigs like outside of like high school performances, like in terms of like with like my jazz band and like school concerts, stuff like that. Yeah. I started doing gigs when I was probably like 14 because I was part of my dad's band back in the day called Bombay Sapphire. That's right.
Yeah. I remember I was at Daisy Fest when you guys performed there too.
That's
back
it.
In 2008.
That's right. Yeah. And so a big part of that was allowing me to jump on stage. Just like I was a kid, man. Like I was a kid and I thought I was so cool, because it's cool like being that young and being in front of a bunch of other people and being able to perform. And it's funny, like when I remember one story, there was actually there's a nightclub that used to be around here called Cheers.
Yeah, that was the Envy, I think.
That's it, right? Yeah. And so we got this gig and we were performing there, and obviously like everybody in the band was like a lot older than me and able to go to all these places, and obviously me being 14, like there was a lot of, first of all, we had to fight for even for me to be able to even perform in there.
Yeah.
But I eventually was able to perform in there. I had to have a wristband. I had to stay backstage. I couldn't like go
Did they give you
else.
like a fake beard?
Yeah, like, yeah,
put some makeup on that face.
No, it was very clear that I was 14, but I had to stay in the back. I could only like go on stage and then literally come back off. Like I couldn't wander around.
No private bottle.
Nothing.
For the 14-year-old.
Yeah, nothing like that.
That's disappointing.
But I remember I thought I was so cool. And I went to high school. I went to school the next day, and I was telling everyone, I was like, "Yeah, I had a gig last night. I was at the club, this, that, and the other." And I was now looking back at it, it probably sounded so dumb, but it was like it was cool. Like,
but yeah, back then, right?
It was cool. It was
kids your age would be like, "No way!"
It was
right?
really
like,
cool.
Yeah.
But what's cool with that is throughout high school, I did more of those kind of things. So from like grade 8 to grade 12, I was doing a lot of these public gigs. In grade 12, I had to take a week off school because we did a few shows with Jazzy B in the States.
So I wanted to get to that because how did you start getting these gigs? Like was it through like obviously like through your dad was Bombay Sapphire. So like it started off with that, but like the Jazzy B gigs, for example, like how did those come about?
Yeah, so it first started when I was playing with all these people, and you meet other bands and places and people in the industry, right? So, there was another band, and they're still around, and Karma, that was performing at the same time. It was a great band, and all those guys are, my good friends.
Yeah,
Nick and all these guys, Pip, everyone, like they're great, right? And
Pip used to teach my brother Tol.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
And
so we know all those guys for a long time.
Great bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And what sort of started happening is, as I started playing, you meet other musicians and this, that, and the other, and people sort of know like, oh, okay, like if you need a drummer, you call this person, this, that. And I guess because drums they aren't a traditional Indian instrument.
They usually go octopad.
That's it. Yeah. That's
octopad.
right. That's it. Because we play drums. There's a lot. There's fewer of us, right? There's a lot, and then no disrespect to them, but there's a lot of dole players, a lot of tabla players, which means there's a lot more people that you can select from. But with drummers and non-traditional Indian instruments, there's a smaller amount of them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so it sort of became like this thing where people just sort of knew like, oh, like this is Jazz's son, he plays drums. And my first gig, like when I played with like, an artist was, I think it was Jazzy B. And I can't remember if there was anyone before that, but that's the only one I can remember. But basically what had happened was the drummer couldn't make it. And it was actually Nick who actually who
was
reached
on the
out
keyboards,
to me.
right?
Yeah, and he reached out to my dad and he asked, is like, hey, like we got to do these shows in the States. Can Karan come with us and do these gigs, right? And so he had a conversation with my dad, and I remember I'm in high school, like I'm in grade 12, right? And so
that must have been a great grad.
Yeah, like no, I'll tell you another story about that. It was awesome. Yeah. And so basically I had to take a week off school. My band directors were like, this is awesome. Go do that. Like, this is sweet. Like this is exactly what you want. Because at that point, I knew I wanted to do music like more professionally.
Yeah, and for those people that don't know, I mean, which I'm sure many people would know, but Jazzy B is one of the top selling Punjabi artists of all time.
Legend. Yeah, absolute legend. Yeah. And so I
Crown Prince of Bhangra.
Absolutely. And so that's how that sort of came about in terms of knowing like, musician, like getting your name out and stuff like that. And it was that to the point where, to go back to your last thought, is I actually missed part of my high school graduation because I was playing at VIBC, which was the 5X Fest now at the Vancouver Art Gallery.
Yeah, I remember those days.
I remember pulling, this is so funny. So that's, back in the day, you get in limos with your friends to go to grad and you take pictures. I was on stage playing drums, and I see the limos of my friends pull up at the very back, and they're getting out to go to their hotel, and they're looking up, and I'm waving at them, and I got off stage. I went into the Fairmont, got changed into my suit, and then went to my grad prom that evening.
Wow.
It was too funny. That's
amazing.
That's a funny story that I'll always remember.
Yeah.
But to go back to what we're talking about now, in terms of how I started playing for more artists is, in the beginning, it was more word of mouth.
Yeah.
What really started taking it to the next level is when I started posting on social media, and I started doing all these like Punjabi drum covers. And I had this idea because I'd always looked and because I was playing drums to Punjabi music, I would always try and look up drum covers of songs so I could learn. That's how I'd learn. Like if I wanted to look up a drum cover of any song. But when you go on YouTube and you typed in, you know, blah, 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 Punjabi drum cover, nothing came up. And so I was like, nobody's doing this. So I should do this. And I started putting out content of me playing to super popular Punjabi songs. And that was the key that sort of set everything in motion, because obviously it's on the internet forever. Anybody can share it.
Absolutely.
The first video I did was a Sherry Mon medley of a bunch of songs. And he reposted it on his actual feed. And I remember I woke up and I had jumped up like 500 to 1,000 followers. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
And then from there, we've sort of progressed to the point of where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Of it's very accessible for people to look up my content and see what I do and say, cool, if I need a drummer, this guy has done it for artists, and he is doing it for artists, so we can also.
And you live in the hotbed now.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, the Punjabi hotbed.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. And that's sort of like, if we fast forward to where we are now, that's what sparked it. In the beginning, it was like word of mouth, people just knowing who I am, and now it's become a lot of because of my social media content, and that's what sort of sparked it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really important point that should be reiterated, is that social media is such a key now for, getting ourselves out there. And like you said, it's kind of, if you look at it in a sort of business sort of sense, it's like market inefficiencies. Like what isn't out there as much.
That's correct.
That now I can add.
That's it.
And I think like you really hit the nail on the head there. It's, like, oh, there's not many drum covers of Punjabi songs. So why don't I start doing that? To see how that goes and see how people respond to it.
Totally.
And, I think indirectly as musicians, we always influence a lot of what's to come in terms of trends. Like now you see a lot more drums being used. Even if you listen to the new Karn album, like there's more drum patterns that are being used. And
shout out to them. They're awesome. Sean, the drummer for Karan, sick guy. He's a good friend of mine. He is killing it. But you're right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're all Toronto based, right?
They're all from Toronto. Yeah. They're awesome. Like every single time I see those guys, I'm like, it's a good reminder. I'm like, oh man, I need to go practice. Like they are really good.
Well, I mean, that's what, I can just tell right off the bat, just sitting one-on-one with you is the sort of humility that you have as a musician. I think that's so important, is that, you're such a great drummer, but you're always looking to improve. You're always looking to be like, oh man, I still need to go and practice, and I still need to, it's like the brain should always be updated.
Yeah, of course. Like, our phones get updated, so and all our technology does, so we need to as well. And I don't think I'll ever be at the point, or I think any musician can probably say this, is they'll probably never feel like they're at the point where they're like, I've learned everything I could learn and I don't need to learn anything else. There's always something else you can learn.
Absolutely. And I think the beauty of being a musician too is how you adapt to certain trends.
Yes.
Because no trend is ever going to stay static. Trends keep developing over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of music, right? Like I'll hear a lot of like people talk about, well, classic tracks were the best, and of course they were. Like, I mean, they were in their own right.
Of course,
like very, very good things.
Yep.
If you look at like Western classical music, like obviously that's not a mainstream thing anymore. But even a lot of people that produce use a lot of Western classical music samples within trap beats or hip hop beats or anything like that. That adds more color to that hip hop beat and makes it become what it is. 100%. So while it's not a mainstream thing, I think you can still learn a lot from just listening to it. Is that sort of how you learned a lot too? Obviously, I know you touched on, obviously listening to different types of music and learning online and stuff. Yep. But how important do you think that experience is to listen? Because I think listening is also practicing as well.
100%.
Like, do you see the same sort of importance in that sense?
Yes, because that's how I started playing and got to the level of where I was comfortable at. So when I started playing, before I was playing drums, I was just listening to, the regular, top 40, some hip hop, R&B, and all that kind of stuff. And like nothing wrong with that music. But I thought when I started playing drums, I was like, there's no actual live drums in a lot of these songs. It's usually, electronic drums or like samples or this, that, and the other. So when I was learning, I was like, I need to actually go listen to some music that has an actual drummer in it so I can listen to it and try and copy it. And my first experience of that was when I was playing in, jazz ensembles, was they had a drummer. Yeah. And so I could hear that, and there was actual things that I could copy, and I'd say, or I'd go on YouTube and watch a video of a jazz ensemble and look at the drum and be like, oh, I can see what he's doing, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Then the revolution sort of came where it was funny. I went to a family friend's house, and they had that game Rock Band. Yeah. Or Guitar Hero, whichever one. They're interchangeable, right?
I never did well at Rock Band because this guy would know, Owen would know. I would like be improvising on a Stevie Wonder song, and I'd think I would be like screwing up the whole song.
Yeah, you're not hitting the notes properly. That's so funny. That's funny. But to that point, I started, my friend's like, you want to play? And I was like, sure. And so I started playing, obviously I chose to play the drum part, and I was playing the drums. And
no, you did not.
Yeah, no, I know, crazy, no right? Yeah. And I was like, cool. And so I was listening to a lot of these songs, and I was like, oh, these drum parts are really cool. Like, it was like different patterns that I'd never heard of because I'd never listened to any kind of like rock music or anything like that. And I was like, oh, these are cool. And that is what started me on the path of listening to more like, rock, heavy metal, and stuff like that. And that's when I took my drumming to the next level, because I would go and research these songs that I found on Rock Band, and then I would find other bands that were doing similar things, and then I would look up drum covers of those, and I'd be like, oh, that's so cool. And
that's amazing.
And then I started transitioning over into listening to more like, new metal and hard rock bands. And to this day, honestly, that's what I listen to. Like, a lot of people, like, people who are close to me know, a lot of people don't know is I listen to like 90% of the music that I'm listening to is like heavy metal bands, and bands that have a lot of like complicated drumming and things like that, like a lot of prog rock, because for me, that's my learning, because I can hear the drums, and it's influenced a lot of the styles and a lot of patterns that I play. If there's any drummers that are watching, if you watch what I play, a lot of them are very like heavy metal, double bass drum patterns, because that's what I grew up listening to.
Yeah, that is something I've noticed.
Yeah. That's a huge part of my of what I used to play, because I used to play for a metal band back in the day, and that's sort of where it progressed in terms of listening to different styles of music.
Yes,
and getting into something completely different, and that's sort of where it progressed from there.
And I think like heavy metal and bands that are in heavy metal or rock. Mm-hmm. The coordination is off the charts. Like, I don't know how.
It
man. Like, it is.
There's stuff
like
that I
symbols
watch.
And like everything. Like, it's just like what. Like, I can't even fathom. I can't even picture it.
People think it's just sometimes a lot of like when you hear the term like heavy metal or like this, then the other, they just think it's just a lot of like thrashing and kind of music. Yeah. But if you actually sit down and you watch some of the,
I love more instrumental heavy metal.
Yeah, it's just like, and the coordination of sometimes like the guitar player's playing a pattern, the drummer's mimicking the pattern on his bass drum. He's playing something else, and it's just like, it's cool. And I'm like, wow, like this is, it takes a lot of coordination to be able to do something like that.
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, I think the coordination aspect of it is a lot of practice. Like, absolutely. It takes so much practice. I mean, even for me as a vocalist, like, learning classical music and stuff like that, like, of course there's a lot of coordination in that, but it's just the one instrument.
Sure.
It's just like the one vocal chords, built into your system already.
Totally.
Right? It's like an AI of your own. Yeah. And then it's like with you, it's like you got to use all the drums that are in the set. So I wanted to go back. I know I've been going all over the place.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
That's where we are as musicians.
No, I like it. I like it.
So going back to that Jazzy B experience.
Yeah.
So when you were on tour.
Yeah.
How was that experience like for you? Like, take me sort of behind the scenes of how you were feeling in the moment when you were on stage, mm-hmm. when you're probably hearing the roar of the crowds. Mm-hmm. In Punjabi crowds, we have a special roar.
Yes. Yeah, we do.
It's a lot more audible.
Yeah.
It's and I think kind of bringing that heavy metal thing into it too. Like, I think a lot of Punjabi music goes very hard, and so
Yeah.
those are the drum patterns that I think that Punjabi people really appreciate. By the way, but
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, what was that experience like for you internally, like when you were going through that tour, and how did that transform you to where you are now?
Yeah, totally. It's a really good question. And it's interesting because I think of that from the perspective of that was me when I was like, I guess 15, 16, sort of the tail end of grade 12. I think you're 15, 16 around then, or like roughly around that age. And from that perspective, it was like, that was the moment where I was like, I want to do this on a professional level because I was having so much fun. Even though it was like a bunch of early flights and you're flying here, getting to a hotel, running here, doing a sound check, running back, this, that, and the other.
No sleep, man.
No sleep.
No
like
sleep on tour,
none
bro.
of that. And but at the time, I loved it. And I was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. And the whole experience of like, I'm way more used to it now than I was back then. But before, you're getting picked up from the airport in a nice vehicle. You're getting driven somewhere. People are feeding you, and then they're taking you to your hotel. And that whole experience leads up to when you're in the back and you hear people, and you're just about to go on stage. You're in the green room, and it's awesome. Like, that kind of feeling is something I don't think I could. I'm trying to think of like another human experience that I can think of in my life that can relate to that, but I can't, because there's something about it of just the anticipation of being able to like go on stage and perform and just see the joy in people's face, like when you're performing and you look up and everybody's going crazy and having a good time, and in some way you are part of that experience.
That's so beautiful.
Is really cool. And obviously, like, I know that 99.99% of those people aren't even there to see me, and they don't even know who I am. They're there to see the artist that I'm performing with. And I'm totally okay with that. But a little part of me thinks it's really cool that I'm adding to their experience at that place, because I'm also contributing to the overall vibe of what's going on. And I think that's really, really cool and really amazing to be a part of something like that.
No, I think like any sort of experience like that can really shape who you become as well, right? Like, and sort of like thinking about and reflecting on how that experience has gotten you to this point. Like, do you kind of think about it now and look at that experience as sort of a life-defining moment for you? Like in terms of how you started off and everything like that?
I think so. Yeah. I don't think I realized at the time it was, and who does when they're having that kind of moment, right? You're in that moment.
Yeah.
But looking back at it now, I think it really was because it sort of ignited this whole, oh wow, this is possible. You can do this, and you have done it. Why can't you go do it again for other people or the same person or have that same experience? But I think the most important thing that I look back at it is like, I liked doing it. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those moments that now that I do it professionally and I am doing these kind of things, it's, I wouldn't say normalized is the wrong word, because it is something special that I think that I get to do, but it's more like,
it's become a part of your everyday experience.
Correct. Yeah. Like looking at it from the perspective of when I was doing it, when I did that first experience when I was in high school, to think about it now it's like I am living the dream that I wanted to do. And I still think it's awesome and special in every single way.
For sure.
But it was, I think the first time it's like the first time you do anything and you experience, the first time was probably the most special, because I was like, wow, this is really cool, and I want
it's like when you have your first love, right?
That's it. No, it's literally the exact same thing.
Yeah. Because like those, and was there anything during those preliminary experiences or anything now that you can think about where maybe an artist gave you some advice, or maybe there was something that you learned about yourself that you didn't really know about yourself before. Because there, it's not just as simple as getting up on stage and performing, right? There's
of course.
a lot of practice. You got to be
right.
on your game.
Of course.
So have there been moments like that where sometimes we can be our worst critic, or something like that where you're like, I don't know how I feel about how it all went today or anything like that? Or has it always just been, hey, let's learn from this and let's try and move forward? Or how has that all been shaped for you?
Yeah, that's another really good. You're asking all the good questions today.
I hope so.
It's funny because I think it comes from two perspectives, because there's times, and I won't say who it's with or when it was, but there's times where we've done shows, whether it's me solo or it's with another artist, and we come off stage and we're like, yeah, that was bad. Like that was not to our standard of what we wanted, and we acknowledge that, and we know it. It could have been for multiple reasons.
Yeah,
it could have been sound,
organized,
which is usually one of the
risks.
biggest ones. Organization, sound usually, and I'm not usually it's things that are outside of our control, but we still try and do the best job that we can do. But the biggest thing every single time, which is always good, because it puts us back into the perspective of the audience, and the feedback that we always get is, that was the best thing I ever saw. Yeah. That was amazing. That was like, we had such a great time. It was awesome. Like we had fun, this, that, and the other. Whatever they're saying, it's always positive things. And it's really interesting because going back to what I was saying, it's perspective, right? Like we view it as, we want to do the best job possible. And when we feel like we're not doing the best job possible, we feel like we've kind of let down people. Yeah. But how they're interpreting it is different to how we're internally interpreting it.
Because we're musicians.
Because we're musicians.
Yeah, and we're the ones who are performing.
Correct, right? And so it's always nice to look back at it like from that perspective, because it's, I guess, from someone who's outside of the world and doesn't understand music, obviously to the degree that we do, they see it differently when they're viewing you on stage versus when, we're the ones performing for the audience. And I think that's kind of cool. And it's almost I'm almost kind of jealous of people sometimes when they can view it from that perspective. Because people like us will never be able to view it from that way. Well, I guess we can sometimes when we see other musicians, but when you go, and I'm sure you know this, when you go see or hear or watch or anything, see someone perform their art and you understand what they're going through at the same level, you think about it differently because, maybe, their monitors or their in-ear stop working on stage, and you can tell like, oh, I think it stopped working. And you can see them trying to coordinate and figure it out, like, oh, like are they fumbling a little bit, or this, that, and the other, but it's okay because you've had similar experiences,
Exactly. No, and I think that's what a lot of perspective can bring you, right? Is looking at how other people are performing and realizing that, hey, like we're all humans that make mistakes. Yep. Like it's bound to happen.
It's happened to everyone. And when you've also experienced it, you're like, oh, you're also more forgiving because you're like, oh man, I've had that happen to me and it sucks. Like I hate it. I hate that you're going through it too, kind of thing, What have you learned about yourself the most? Wow.
During all of this, or just in general?
It's a good question. I've learned, well, there's one thing, it's kind of not music related, but it kind of is. It's I've learned that to appreciate what's going on in the moment as opposed to just living in the moment. And what I mean by that is a lot of people don't understand, like, people always say, like, they look back on their life and they say, oh man, those are the good old days when we used to do this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. We used to do this and that. Yeah. And a lot of those times, and people don't know that they're in those times until they're out of them.
That's so true.
And one of the things that I think I've been blessed to understand is I'm in those times right now and I'm aware of it. And not a lot of people, I think, get to know that because it's hard to to just take a step back and just look at your life from like an objective point of view and view it as if you're viewing yourself, and knowing that that's happening to you. Like, I know these are going to be the greatest times of my life because I've been doing it for, 15, 16 years now, about 4 or 5 years full time. And I can do it because also I'm at a point in my life where I have responsibilities, but not as many responsibilities as someone who's maybe a little bit older than me. And, I'm not married. I don't have kids. And I know there'll be a point when that happens, things will change a little bit because I'll have different responsibilities. And that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing, but it will change maybe how frequent I do it or who I do it with. And that's made me realize I need to enjoy every single moment that I get to do it now, because I'm going to be able to do it to the most degree that I can now.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
because you can't go back and change time.
You can't.
So
you can't.
The more that you can enjoy the moment that you're in right now, as opposed to just living it, I think that's a really beautiful message, man.
Thanks, man.
I think that's really amazing. And so through all of these experiences, and through all of what you just talked about, is there any sort of thing that stands out to you, like in terms of like performing with an artist, or any story that you're like, wow, this artist taught me something, or somebody taught me something?
Yeah, there's a few experiences. I always keep like this, like, it fluctuates between like top 10 to top 5 best shows of my life. And it's like, I sort of keep it like, it's like a floating list. I don't have it written down. I'm always just thinking about like, oh, this show was awesome.
And it changes too.
It changes. And I slot things out, this, that, and the other. And it's funny because sometimes the reasons for why the show or why that experience or that experience I had with someone was good for different reasons. Sometimes, like, instead of giving one specific one, I'll give you I'll give you multiple reasons for different reasons, if that makes sense. So what I mean is that sometimes it's been a show where, before we went on stage, it was just the band sitting in the back, and we were just having a really, deep emotional conversation just about life and like how much we appreciated each other and how exciting it is that we get to do what we do.
Yeah.
And then we went out and just had a normal show, but that show was awesome because of the conversation we had before. Like, it was so like, wow, like we're
so fulfilling.
Yeah. And that's something that made that special. On the flip side, there's been shows where there's been just an insane amount of people, and the crowd was awesome. Like, everything was on point. Sound was good. We had a great performance. And that also, it's at the exact same level of how excited I felt when I had that just, cool conversation before I went on stage. But it's cool for different reasons, depending on, what they've been. I'm trying to think if there's any more like that kind of stand out, because there's been a lot.
It's crazy that you, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's crazy that you say that though, because I think, like you said, it's about enjoying the little things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like, even fulfilling conversations like that, we don't even think about it.
That's right.
Right? It's just like, oh, we just went on stage and performed. But the fact that you look at it as, hey, this was a very emotional, fulfilling conversation, shows that, I feel like a lot of us musicians are really attuned with our emotions.
Yeah. I think you have to be, because it's a thing you pour a lot of your emotions into outside and inside of music, I think. I mean, thinking about it, like now what you just said, like some of the best memories I've had during like a tour have actually been off tour, like in the downtime between shows. We'll finish a show and then, we'll be like, all right, like we need to eat something or this, that, and the other. And it's just us like in our hotel rooms and all just like eating, and we're just hanging out and just like not even talking about music. We're just talking about life and just like as brothers and family and band members, and just being like, this is really cool that we all get to experience this, not just individually, but together. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's really cool is just like those little things. Like I think about like, you know, we did the PropheC tour in the UK earlier this year back in February.
That sounds like so much fun.
Oh, it was awesome. And it was awesome because like, you know, we're all really tight and we're all really good friends, but it's more than that now because the more time you spend together and traveling together, you know, you become more like, you know, like brothers and like family. And like, you know, we talk on a like regular basis between the band, and it's just more about like life. Like, bro, how's one of them got married? How's like, you know, the wedding was awesome. How's your wife now? Like, what do you do? And like this, it's beyond that. And I think that's something that's really cool is beyond the music. There's so many other things that you get. And because it's all emotional, you're pouring your emotions in something that you do together. It also reflects everything on the outside that you do. Hopefully that made sense. I don't know if that was like a word salad.
No,
But hopefully that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense. So, no, I think that's really beautiful. And how much does chemistry really matter in a band? And have you been in bands that had less chemistry or more chemistry? Like the camaraderie aspect of it.
Huge. It's a huge thing. Yeah. And some of the best performances and best times that I've had are people that you have a lot of chemistry with. Yeah. One person that I'd like to highlight is actually my cousin Cal. He's a keyboard player. Keyboard player. He's also produced a lot of songs, like a lot of big songs that people know today that get played. He's produced a lot of these songs, and he's someone that I grew up playing with a lot. We don't get to play as much now because we both have separate groups we play for, and we don't do too much together. But as we grow up, he was the keyboard player in Bombay Sapphire, right? Yeah. And when it's funny because I'll think about performing on stage, and you know, I'll be playing and I'll do something like a drum fill or something like that, and it may be a little bit unorthodox, and I'll play it, and then he'll look over at me and he'll smile because he understood exactly what I was doing, and he'll look over at me and we'll just start laughing, or he'll play something and I'll be like, oh, that was sick, and we look over at each other, and also there'll be times where it's like, especially with Punjabi music, sometimes there's a lot of improvising off the cuff.
There is, yeah.
And you have to be able to just look over at someone and be like, okay, here we go.
Here we go.
2, 3. And you just play something that was unprepared and you synchronize it. And that's when chemistry plays a huge part of it, because I've played with artists and bands where there isn't a lot of chemistry. And it's almost like a little bit of sense of uneasiness because you're like, okay, okay, like, here we go. And like, you look over like, okay, is he gonna do this? Like, I don't know. And you're just like anticipating, and then you have to kind of go with it. So definitely playing a lot of chemistry and playing with people who, the more and more you play with someone, the better and better obviously it gets. There's another DJ that I work with to do this drummer and DJ show, DJ Scammy D.
Yeah,
and
Scammy D.
He's awesome. Like that, big part of like my career, and I owe it to him as well.
Yeah,
and we've played together for like, I think this is 8 years now that we've been doing this, 7 or 8 years. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And I know what song he's going to mix into another song. I know how he's going to mix it. I know what the next song is going to be after that. I know a specific type of transition, and I'll be able to look over and be like, oh, he's about to do this. Cool. I'm going to do something that coordinates this on the drums. Or we have these little routines and stuff that we know that we do.
That's
amazing. That comes with 8 years of playing together. Like in the beginning, it wasn't like that. Yeah. But now it's like, oh, he's going to do this. He's going to do that. He's going to say this on the mic. So I know to do this, that, and the other. And that sort of comes with time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, with PropheC, obviously I got to know him, you know, back in 2009. It's so crazy how many people he's also connected to that I know.
yeah.
You know, and you know, we got to share stages together, you know, in the past.
Yeah.
Just a super humble person.
Absolutely.
Also, like you kind of knew right from the beginning that this guy was going to do something really special.
Of course.
I'm so glad that, you know, he's been on such a great journey. And how has it been working with him? How has that experience been, you know, being a full-time drummer?
Yeah.
With him, and how has that sort of been for you in terms of, you know, the touring aspect and meeting different people, and you know, being on tour and meeting like different normal folk who are just there to watch the show?
Yeah, it's that experience has been one of the key defining I think, things in my life because it sort of it gives you a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Rapport, when you can say that you play for someone who's that big in the industry and that talented, because it allows you to also have conversations with people who, and I guess they take you more seriously because of what you do. And you're like, oh, okay, you do that. Okay. Yeah. Like obviously you do this to some sort of
Which is also
level.
kind of sad in a way, because it's more about what you do nowadays
Correct.
than about who you are.
I agree. I agree. And so but working with them and their team, it's been awesome. Like they're really professional. They're great at what they do, and I think they're always trying to strive for excellence in what they do. Like they don't, for a lack of a better word, just try and do they're not just like, all right, yeah, like let's go here and let's just do this and like that's not as great as it's fine. Like it's like, no, like it's got to be like people are paying money to come see someone perform, and they're using they don't have to, but they're doing it because they want to. So you want to make sure you give them the most value for what they're coming to see and experience, and that them and their team are really awesome. I couldn't ask for a better team to work with. Everything's amazing, and it's cool because they also I'm not gonna use any names, but there's been people that you sort of work with sometimes, and sometimes you feel a little bit unappreciated sometimes, and you're like you're there.
That's a huge part.
You're there, and you don't, and they don't have to show their appreciation. At the end of the day, I'm there because I'm there to do a job.
But see,
I'm getting paid.
Here's where I will disagree. I think people should.
I
think I think people should show appreciation. I think everyone's a part of the experience, right? It's not just the artist who's on stage. It's also the musicians that make the artist.
Correct.
The how you guys work together. I think that really resonates with people.
Totally.
Either way, like you could come on there and the artist, like I've had even I'll listen to legendary artists, for example, and they will purposely keep musicians who just kind of follow their lead, as opposed to having their own time to shine. Ustad Jagjit Singh Ji was actually one of those people I really appreciated so much, because he would always give musicians time to do whatever they wanted to do, because they were all so talented.
Yes.
And the violinist Deepak Bandarsar, who I've had the privilege of being able to see live, but also he performing with him live.
Yes.
I mean, it was such an honor.
Of course.
And so, anytime that you have that chemistry and that when you're appreciating your musicians, when you make them a part of that experience. As hey, it's us and not just me.
Yes.
I think that really adds to the overall complexion of what you're doing.
That's the key right there. And going back to what you said, that's exactly what it's like with the PropheC team. It's very much about, just as much as it is about people are coming to see him, he's also very much like, yeah, but you guys are also a part of the show. Let's do this to highlight you, or this to highlight this person, and make it more of an experience. And he's okay with that. And that's why I always say he's amazing in that aspect, and his team's really good because they want that. And some other people that I have worked with, they don't do that to the same degree. I don't hold it against anyone.
No.
But it's just, it's the perspective of,
so when you say that they don't do that to a certain degree, of course, no names or anything.
No names. Yeah.
But what does that look like when things are done in that sort of, to that degree that you feel like you're a part of the team? Like what makes you feel like you're a part of the team?
Yeah, I think it's definitely when you have input or a say, and you also feel like you're allowed to speak your mind if things aren't done to a way that you think could benefit the overall goal. So for example, a lot of what, in the beginning when I started playing with PropheC, it was cool. Here are the arrangements, you play drums, right? And I was like, cool. And I was happy to do that, but it's evolved now into the point where it's almost like me and and another member of the band are more like the musical directors.
Yeah.
And we're arranging the live sets. We're adding in things that are cool to do on stage. But that's because the team has allowed us to, and it made a comfortable environment to say, yeah, this is what we want and we love your input, and we're okay with you doing that. Because some people also just want to hire a band and just say, here's the tracks, learn them and play them, and that's it. And by the way, if that's the way that they want to operate, that's okay. Like, I don't hold it against anyone, because at the end of the day, I'm being paid to do a job. It's almost like being a studio artist. You're getting paid to learn this. Come in and play it. We don't really want any input on what you think could be better. This is exactly what we want. Here's your money. Please do it. I'm totally okay with those kind of arrangements, as long as it's spoken about ahead of time. Like, the worst is like if the expectations are that, and you try and speak your mind, and they're like, no, like, we don't need that, just do this kind of thing. So it kind of depends, like, what you're, I guess I wouldn't say the more realistic side of, like, when you look at like being in this industry, is people just kind of see it like, oh, like, you're there performing, but there's a lot of stuff on the back end where it's like, well, what's the dynamics? Like, do you want my input on what do you think I should do? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you are hiring me, but you also are hiring like all of my experiences that I've had from previous shows and previous artists. And I can give you that input to make your show even better. But if not, that's totally cool. I'm here to if you want me to just play whatever you want me to play, it's fine with me. Like, whatever. My goal is always, as I think about as I'm here to enhance the show. And if that's just with my input and also playing drums, cool. If you want me to just play drums, I'm happy to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's what really makes a really good musician, is to be able to have that input. Where do you think music is right now? Like, what place do you feel like music is at right now? And how much, as artists, do you feel like we have the responsibility to put out more music of hope? Because especially now, it feels like we're kind of in this part of time where the world is so divided, where we as humans we're so divided in so many ways, more than ever before. And do you feel like music can really help bridge the gap? And do you feel like we as artists have that responsibility to help bridge that gap?
Yeah, I think a lot, like, you can look at music from a perspective of, like, you can think music is just this thing that I listen to enhance or maybe make me feel a certain type of way when I am feeling a certain type of way. So, if you're feeling, sometimes people, when they're feeling sad, they'll listen to sad music because they want some accompaniment.
Yeah.
When people are feeling happy, they'll listen to some type of music that makes them feel happy. Or there's also the medium of, I'm just doing something and I just want to listen to any kind of music just because I'm driving, I'm studying, I'm working, or whatever the case is, right?
Exactly.
I think in the case, a lot of people use music as also like, a type of therapy when they are feeling certain ways and certain things. So I think there is a certain amount of responsibility to be able to make music to help people at the same time with whatever it is they're going through, whether they're dealing with a personal struggle, whether they're trying to deal with, stress, or whatever it is. I think there is a certain responsibility because, you hear people say this all the time, like, oh my God, I listened to this song when I was at my absolute lowest and it saved my life. And you can, sometimes you kind of,
that's how therapeutic it really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take it for granted and you think, oh yeah, like, yeah, that's crazy. That helped you. But like, you don't know what that person was going through at that time. And it really could have. And I think you don't know what your music is going to do for people until you release it and put it out. You may think, this is a song I wrote about when I stubbed my toe. But what you think about that could be completely different to what someone else is listening to it and how they're interpreting it. Because you're interpreting it from the literal perspective of, I'm using a random example of, I stubbed my toe and I wrote a song about it. But someone else could view that as some kind of metaphor, as like, don't let don't let that one thing ruin your day. And they may be experiencing something like they had something that one annoying thing about their day, but they're trying not to let it, like, you know what I mean? Like they're thinking about it differently from when you were thinking about it more literally. And I'm sure there's lots of examples.
And music really has the power to express all of that.
100%.
And the ways that the rhythm is put together, and the ways that the singer expresses it.
Yep.
You know, it's not just, you know, you get up on stage and you sing. It's also about how you express. That's one of the things that I've learned in my artistry. Before we go, man, I mean, it's been so fun. Like, honestly,
I agree.
I've had such a great time doing this. What would you say to a lot of parents, family, people in that sort of vein who think of artistry or music as a very unconventional career, which it is, but are worried about, you know, putting their kids in music because, you know, how can you be so successful and that sort of thing? What would you say to people like that, you know, in that sense? And if there's anything else you wanted to touch on that we haven't.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's a really good question to sort of end off with here. And I think about it from a lot of perspectives, and I've learned this as well, is there's a few points. The first point that I'll say is that thinking about music as a career is actually more viable in today's world than it would have been maybe 10, 20 years ago for a few reasons. Is I think people think like, okay, if you want to have a career in music, you got to be a musician and you have to be able to perform and become famous, and that's the only way that it's going to work. That was, I think, the old style of way of thinking is if why are you doing this if you're not going to become famous and travel the world and make a bunch of money? It's like, well, that's not how it is now these days, because within music, there's so many ways. There's so many ways. Like, you know, for example, like, you know, someone said this to me is just because you, and I've taken this, right? Just because you're not going to be, you know, the Jazzy Bs of the world or whatever it is, and these legendary singers that are singing on stage, doesn't mean that you can't be part of the experience in any kind of way. Yeah. Maybe you decide you're going to become an audio engineer and work in a studio and record these people who work in music. Maybe you're going to work on a TV show and be a part of the audio editing process. Sound engineer. Maybe you're going to be a live sound tech. Maybe you're going to work in music business. Maybe you're going to work in music management. Maybe you're going to do anything related to music, because music is such a big. Maybe you can become a music instructor, like anything. I could go on about all the music related things, but you get the point. Is that just because you're not going to have the whatever you consider the top level job of being, you know, the famous singer, doesn't mean that there's other things that you can do to work in around that industry. And also, if you are your own artist and you are making your own content, who's to say that you can't be doing that on the side as well and using that to also fund whatever your career is of. If you are a singer or a musician, you can still do that while working in a job that you like or something like that you like doing. I'll give you an example is, you know, a lot of my drumming happens is when I travel outside to go do, you know, tours or shows or outside of BC. And I do have local shows in BC too, but when I'm here in town, I DJ. And it's still something that I like doing. It's a job within music. And it's fun and I like it. Is it the same level of degree as my drumming? No, but it's another job within the music industry that I do because I'm here and I might as well do it. Yeah, of course. And then the second aspect I'll say of that is in today's world of social media and the way that you can put yourself out there with content, it's actually way easier to have a career in music because you can market yourself to the entire world. And if you're good enough, people will realize and see that. I mean, that's how a lot of like these famous people have been discovered. It's been online, right? Yeah. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because it also means you're competing with a bunch of people around the world who can do the same thing, but you still have the same opportunity as long as you put it out there. And so it is actually easier to have a quote-unquote career in music because of those things. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You still got to work hard. I feel like you can do it. I feel like music competitive. No, I think that's a really beautiful message too. And I feel like competitive spirit is really important.
I feel like competing with yourself is also very important.
Yes.
As opposed to competing with others.
Yes.
Because we all have unique capabilities. The only issue I think is that we actually don't sit down and think about it.
Yeah.
Because we're so busy trying to compare ourselves to what other people are doing instead of actually drawing inspiration from what they're doing and making it into our own ideas. And sometimes I feel like it's just sitting down in silence and sort of letting yourself evolve and understanding what your voice can do.
Totally.
You know, as a singer, for example, right? Like, you know, I didn't know that I could, you know, do different sort of tones with my voice, right? Like, मैं हूँ गुमसुम तू भी खामोश है, you know, as opposed to
very raspy.
मैं हूँ गुमसुम तू भी खामोश है, you know, it's a bit
Two
more,
completely different takes. Yeah.
you know, so it's very like the things that you can do with your voice, you know, it's very vast.
Yes.
And so I think it's all about what you can add to the music, and what you want to add and what is authentic to you, what defines you.
Absolutely.
You know, because that's when you'll start to, you know, notice that you have your own uniqueness to it. If we're trying to be the next, you know, Sonu Nigam sir, Arijit, or, you know, the next Justin Bieber or Usher or anything like that, it's just, we can't really compare ourselves and say that I want to be the next this. I want to be the next, you know, Karan Mattu. I want to be the next Jugpreet Bajwa for me, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's, I want to be one of my own kind.
Totally. You can be inspired by those people for sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Inspiration is great, but you're right. Make your own kind of path and be inspired by yourself and perspective of seeing other people, like, you know, you mentioned, like, I'll watch other drummers play. I'll be like, oh my God, that's awesome. I want to go learn that. And
same.
And I sit there and I'm like, oh, what are they doing? And this, and I'm sure you see that with singers, and you're like, okay, I need to sit down and I need to get better at this. And that, in a way that you are using yourself as you are inspiring yourself by also seeing other people do what you do. And I think that's awesome and cool at the same time.
Yeah. So I think we are just, mindset needs to change on the like, oh, they're doing this, like, you know, so what? I can do it too. As a, you know, I don't think we should have that mindset. I think, in my humble opinion, it should be, they're doing this. This is really cool. Okay, let me learn this.
Yeah.
And now let me implement it into my own authentic sort of way that I can.
You got it.
And see, and like, there's always going to be preference. Not everyone's going to like what you're doing.
Sure.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know? So, but honestly, bro, it has been such a pleasure having you on. There's so much I know we could talk about. And, you know, this is definitely scratching the surface of that. But,
totally.
You know, just hearing your journey, just hearing how well supported you are, you know, in terms of just, you know, that from the family side of things too, you know, and how they've supported your career, and how there was that, you know, obviously that understanding, that inner understanding of, you know, what it means to be a musician. And
totally,
you know, I think music has been such a important part of your life, as has it for me. So, really appreciate it, man. And thank you so much for being on, and it was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome, and yeah, I think we could keep talking forever, but I think at some point we, you know, there's always part 2 that we can do, but this was awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really thank you so much. And on behalf of all of us here, just want to say good morning, good day, and good night, whenever you're going to be listening to this. And we're going to be back with some more amazing guests, some more amazing stories. So keep it locked to Rhythm and Remedy, where music meets medicine.
Oh, wow. That was awesome.
What did you think, brother?
The time has come to share your thoughts, relive your moments, open up your hearts with one and only Rhythm and Remedy.